Welcome to My Shity Podcast. So shitty it only has one T. I'm your host, Adam Copeland. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. And most importantly, thanks for telling a friend. Also want to thank my guest, Pixie, for coming on and telling us about her life and what she's doing right now, her past life as a stripper, and so on and so forth. Please go check out her podcast. I left the link tree in the show notes, so you can click on that really easily. Yeah, man. Without further ado, let's go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. All right. You ready?
I'm ready, Adam.
Okay, cool.
I think.
All right. Why don't we get started by just introduce yourself and tell us what you do for a living?
Well, Adam, I am currently a podcaster and I moonlight as a body worker in my husband's body shop. So I get to weld, grind, and strip paint away. And so it's a little different than what I used to do.
Yeah.
I used to be an adult entertainer for 23 years.
Yeah, that's great. Is that the average lifespan of a stripper? I know there's always an expiration date.
The average lifespan is about 2 years. Maybe 6 months, depending how fast and hard they fall.
Oh my God.
There's definitely, it all depends on how long you take care of yourself. If you kind of wander into those naughty things that you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't partake in any of the terrible nightlife. Like I didn't do any hard drugs. I don't have daddy issues. I did drink like a fish. I mean, that's about the extent of my craziness. My co-host, Mr. J, calls me a vanilla stripper, if you will.
Yeah. I interviewed a stripper a few years ago, and she said that her sobriety helps her be a better stripper. She oftentimes.
Oh yeah, your head's more in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're sober in there, you're more likely to make more money. You're more likely to not lose anything or let things get out of hand.
I think she said that was the main thing. She was picking up after her friends. Here, you dropped this. Here, this is yours. Yeah. Here, your purse was undone.
Oh yeah.
Your money's out in the back. Anyways, I think that's nice, but I think if I were stripping, it would probably get to a point where I would say if you can't beat them, you got to join them. I would most likely.
Well, at the end, I was drinking about 13 shots a night, and I believe most of them were watered down just because of how fishy I was. Yeah. I was able to drink with the best of them sometimes, and the bar really helps out dancers so they don't overdrink. Yeah. 13 is quite the number.
It's a good number. I was in the service industry bartending for 20 years, and I was certainly at a point where I'm that's not a normal number. That's not, people don't go out.
It's not a normal number, no, but I'm there to help the bar. I'm there to help the waitress. I'm there to help myself. Yeah. And so sometimes you got to grease the wheels.
Yeah, totally. I was right there with you. I was no saint. Trust me. It was up there. It was in the double digits. It wasn't 1 to 4. It was 10 to 15.
Yeah.
Depending on how long the shift was.
And when it's a birthday, it's a little bit more exceptional. Yeah. The number, you're 13. That's a rookie number.
Did you experience this with tipping? Did you just having cash on you? I'm curious. Did you tip the cashier at Target? You're oh, here, actually, let me.
No, I didn't tip the cashier at Target, but I did tip on pretty much everything.
Right.
Haircuts, anytime, even if I'm going to pick up food, I was tipping on me picking up my own food from people. I'm
Same.
Oh, okay. We're here at Subway. We're here at Subway, and I'm here's $1. Here's my extra change. You know, I know that you're already getting a full wage, but here's a little extra just because. Because you're here,
I know. I was doing it.
You can't.
Sorry, go ahead.
You can't tip your cashier, but you can tip out the guy, the bagger, the grocery
Yeah.
bagger. You can tip him, but you can't tip the cashier.
Yeah.
They won't take it. They're like, I can't have any extra money.
Yeah. My till will come up weird or something. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Integrating back into like normal, I don't know, people that have like a normal, I get a paycheck, I clock in, it's no big deal. I still was like, here, take this. Look, man, you did a great job at the checkouts. Like, let me, maybe not that extreme, but definitely like, I'll just have a black coffee and then like put $2 on the counter. And like, what?
Yeah.
I just grabbed it and handed it to you. Like, I shouldn't even charge you. It was such a simple order, but I'm still like, take the money.
Take the money.
That makes me feel good that you were in a cash industry and still like it takes a while.
I miss cash. I miss having cash on hand. I miss just paying for things or having like a random 20 somewhere. I haven't been in the industry in over a year, and I just miss having like random ones, just like here's a pair of jeans and there's like a stack of 20s, just like wherever it is, there was always extra money, and you're just like, oh, check the couch. There's got to be some money just laying around.
I think I may have told this story before on this podcast, but I'm going to tell you. It was because cash to cash person. I was going to the laundromat, and I had just finished this big like music festival that comes through town. So I had an absurd amount of like maybe $300 and something, like just to tip out for the night, put it in my pants, forgot about it because it was like boom, boom, on to the next day, boom, on to the next day. And then it came time to do laundry, put my laundry in the laundromat. It was an apartment complex, so it was a little protected. It wasn't like out in the public downtown strip laundromat. But I remember coming down and just seeing it looked like a cash grab booth, those old, like turn the leaf blower on and cash. How much cash can you grab before it turns off? It looked like that in the dryer. There was just like hundreds and 20s flying everywhere. Luckily,
thank goodness it was you.
yeah, I laundered my own money, and it all ended up, coming out well. Anyways, let's talk about your podcast a little bit. I want to get into it. Do you talk about the body shop stuff on the podcast, or is it more so for people that aren't savvy, looking for podcasts?
So it's basically you're getting to listen to two friends talk about how they interacted in the past. We talk about a lot of fun, different things, like the time that I played The Floor is Lava in the strip club in stripper heels, or the time that I got hit with a chair, and that's the reason my teeth are fake. They're fake.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah, they are. They really are. Yeah, my teeth are fake. I got, and it wasn't because of the chair. That was another incident that has happened during my 23 years. And sometimes Mr. J throws me under the bus, and sometimes the guests throw me under the bus. And sometimes we pick on each other, and we just have a really good time. Once in a while, we'll talk about like what's going on outside of the stripper realm. Like sometimes I'll tell somebody like what I'm working on, like a 1979 Ford Bronco. I'm doing a restoration, those kind of things. But most of, like, I'd probably say 98% of it is all stripper related stuff. Because we have more than 42 years in the business, we kind of have a lot of stories, and we're just getting started.
Yeah. What do your guests look like? Are they all strippers? Is it everybody from the industry? Is it?
Well, go ahead. This weekend, we have a stripper coming into the studio. So some of them are strippers, and then some. Currently, we've had a drought in strippers, so it's been doormen, or we had a customer who came in who used to spend a lot of money, and like a lot of money, but he'd never been on a podcast before, so he didn't really open up about all of the stories. Yeah. And he seemed a little nervous. It was okay.
It's funny how that translates. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this is a perfect person for the podcast. I'll bring them on, and they're like, I don't know. It was good. I'm like, it was good. Come on, give me a little bit more. Like, it was all right. Well, how do you like doing this?
Go on.
Yeah, come on.
Lead into it.
We've still got.
Tell me how you felt.
Yeah. Walk us through it. Paint the picture. Yeah, that's great. Fantastic. I want to talk a little bit. I want to kind of tease your show by maybe telling us a little bit about your personal experience. So can you maybe share with us a story of like the days of lore?
Do you want to hear the story of how I got hit with the chair in the strip club?
I wrote it down to make sure to not forget it. But yes, that is one of them.
Well, for those of you who have listened to the podcast, it was episode 24, season 1, and I tell the story where a guy named Tarzan, that was his actual name.
Okay.
I don't know if it was his real name or a stripper name, but so let me set it up. So I'm in the strip club, and it is daytime to nighttime. So it is right there at 7:00. You have to be dressed and ready to be on staff at 7:00 if you're going to work. It's one of those clubs that you don't just get to show up whenever you want. You have to show up on time.
Yeah.
Because it's a fucking job. So can I cuss on you?
Yeah, you
podcast?
can. Shit is in the title.
Okay, good. Because I already let one rip.
Yeah.
So I'm in my favorite blue one-piece outfit. I got my stripper heels on. I'm sitting at the bar. I got a Moscow mule, and I'm just having a great time hanging out with people, chitter-chatting, because it's not quite 7, but I'm prepared and I'm ready because I want to make money. So you always show up early and on time.
Yeah.
Because I like those drinking guys from 5 to 7. Those guys get real wasted real quick.
Yeah.
And those are my kind of guys. So I get up. They call me up. I'm not on stage 1. Stage 1 is the stage where who gets to pick the music. Who's ever on stage 1, you can tell which dancer it is by her music. I'm on stage 3, and so it goes. Stage 1 is over by the front. Stage 2 is over by the DJ booth, and stage 3 is in this awkward triangle in the middle. Stage 3 should be stage 1, but it's not. It's real weird how the club was built. And so I'm up there, and the stage is set higher than the customers. The customers are down in a chair, and they're looking up at you. And there's a little bar around where they put their drinks and their money. And so there's probably about 3 different stripper poles on the outsides of the strip, of the stage. So there's not like one single pole, and it's basically this, they're small little brass poles. There's not a lot of leverage between you and the pole. It's a very short, if you were 6 foot and you had to wear heels, or if you were like 5 foot and had to wear heels, your head is basically touching the mirror on the top. Yeah. So it's a good thing that I'm only 5 foot and 5'6" in stripper heels. So 6-inch stripper heels. I'm 5'6". I'm a tall monster at that point. Yeah. So I'm up there and I'm dancing, and the song happens to be Fleetwood Mac, because the girl on stage 1, she's got like the shaggy black hair. She's got her rock and roll t-shirt on. She's absolutely fabulous. And one day I'm going to have her on my podcast, and she's going to tell her side of the story.
I love it.
So I'm up there and I'm dancing, and this guy is sitting at my stage. He's the only one at my stage. I'm looking at this guy. All of a sudden, he is doing the air drums. He is jamming out to Fleetwood Mac. I'm like, hello, stripper on stage. You're at my stage. Look at me. So song number 2, I get undressed. I get down to my little underwear, and I'm up on stage. I get down on my knees, and my best customer service voice, I go, hi, how's it going? And he looks up at me, and he grabs me by my head and pulls me down to the lip of the stage. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? What possessed you to touch a stripper, let alone put your hands on? Who the fuck do you think you are? Yeah. And I pull up, and he pulls me back down. This time he grabbed me by my hair. He pulled me straight down back to the stage. All right, motherfucker. It's war. I'm on it. I take the palm of my hand, and I hit him as hard as I can into his ear over and over again till he breaks free. I get up, I grab my drink. You could hear me over the music. Motherfucker, don't you ever fucking put your hands on me. And I just like, you can hear me all over the bar. That's how loud I am over the music.
Yeah.
I get down off stage. I got tits out. I'm walking. I'm like that. I can't believe that guy put his hands on me.
Yeah.
And I walk past stage 2 and I look over my shoulder and this guy has decided that he is going to bull run at me. I take my drink, I throw it at his chest. That didn't stop him. I jump over the couches where we do our lap dances because it's an open area.
Yeah.
It's an open area. And I land on the couch and I put my arms up over my head and he slams the chair down onto my forearms. There was a customer with a dancer and the customer had pushed the dancer right out of the way up against the wall so she wouldn't get hit. He got hit with the same chair in the top of his head as I did on my arms. The DJ didn't stop him. The doormen were over at the door, which was all the way across the strip club.
Yeah.
So they couldn't do anything. Nobody knew what was going on. This guy threw 3 chairs that night. One of them hit me. The other 2, he's just like, whoa. I don't even know what was going on with this guy. The doorman do not beat him up. Even though they could have. They definitely could have beat him up.
Yeah.
They asked me, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to go home. I am done with this day. I want to go home. And they're like, are you sure? Yes.
Yeah.
They didn't send the guy. They didn't beat him up. They didn't call the cops. He was sitting over there next to our manager's office, quarantined basically, because he was dating the bartender.
Oh my God.
And because he was dating the bartender, they weren't going to beat him up. They weren't going to call the cops. She paid for his cab ride home because she was working that night.
Wow.
And I was like, this bitch.
Holy smokes. Oh
and those are the stories that we tell on the podcast.
That's great.
we like, I can tell you that there's so many like gems from the beginning to the now, mind you, when we first started the podcast, we had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
My co-host, Mr. J, he said, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. What do you think about creating a toy, like a nerd podcast? I was like, that sounds fantastic. Let's create a nerd podcast. Yeah. I said, what do you think about creating a stripper podcast? And he's like, okay, I'm down. Let's figure it out. We had no clue what we were doing. We had no clue how we were going to do it. We had one of those Yeti snowballs, like the worst microphones that you could have. Yeah. We were recording in a long hallway, which was his kitchen. Mind you guys, the sound is terrible if you go back to the front. But if you want to know, it's there. It's available.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you guys remaster or like do a recap of season whatever. That would be fun. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. Yeah. It's not my podcast.
Oh yeah.
But equally same on my end. My first podcast is you can get through it, but it's not, I haven't figured out.
You can get through it.
You just, but it's choppy. So I feel you there. Good on you for just getting out there and doing it. I touched on this last podcast, how I was like this. I wasn't going to wait until I was ready. I was just going to do it and then figure it out.
We're going to jump in and do this because we decided to do it because my co-host was real lonely. And I was like, well, I don't have a job currently. And he's like, okay, well, when do you think the strip club's going to come back? I don't know. The situation from 2020, it shut everything down. It made a lot of girls switch from being strippers to fans only girls. Some of us had to get real jobs. Some of us had to do other things. And a lot of us had to transition because we didn't know what we were going to do.
Yeah, you got to
So
improvise.
for me to jump into podcasting, it was something completely new that I had never experienced before. I'm great at talking. I'm even better now that I've been podcasting. So it's kind of a natural fit.
Was that challenge? I mean, I'm sure that was challenging when COVID hit. The strip club just closed down. Is that what
they were the first to close down? Strip clubs and bars that was it. Anything that was entertainment like that got closed down so quick. We were just out of jobs.
Yeah.
We had those who saved money had money. Those who spent it like it was going out of style, you're SOL, and you just kind of have to pick it up and run with it. It was a scary time. We didn't know what was coming down the pipeline. Currently, my strip club is open. I've been back like twice. I danced like right after we started the podcast in September in 2020. So it's been a crazy ride.
What was it like coming back after all that time?
There was a lot of plexiglass. It felt like you were a fish in a fishbowl.
Really? Yeah.
Everybody's wearing masks. We looked like we're from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
You couldn't. You could sit with somebody, but like you couldn't sit like next to somebody else. There had to be space between everybody. We had to have our temperatures taken. It was a mess. it was utter chaos from a whole bunch of strippers, who didn't know. We didn't know what we were getting into.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got back in there and I tried, it was apparent that I wasn't suited for it anymore.
Really?
I didn't want to put up with anybody who was drinking, because I basically stopped drinking because no more drinks, no longer drinking. So I really didn't have any patience, and it didn't seem like it took much for me to lose patience with the newer crowd of strippers. Mind you, I'm in my 40s.
Yeah.
And so everybody else is like 20, 21. I'm like,
Yeah, you bitches. I want to talk a little bit about, like, I guess what it's like now, stripping now in the world of OnlyFans. Like there are a little more options. It doesn't have to just be the strip club. It seems like. Can you give me like a perspective of what that was like, or have you lived that? Like, have you been in that world? Have you got to experience a little bit of that world?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
So back in the early 200s, 2000s.
Yeah.
I had my own personal adult page, right?
Yeah.
A lot of us have dabbled in multiple different things. So when the strip club went down and people started going in their opposite ways, because fans only was existing already, a lot of girls did that. And so I was like, I've already done this, so I could do this again. I got the chops for it.
Yeah.
And I quickly found out that I don't have the patience for people to know what my bedroom looks like, or to manage a whole bunch of images and guys, and like at the club, I could just leave it at the club. But now it's in my own bedroom. And good on the girls who can handle a fans only page. But I was handling a fans only page and doing podcasts. I'm like, well, what's more important?
Yeah.
What really makes me happy? And the podcast, that's where it was. It was the transition from one thing to another. I don't need to be a sex worker anymore. I don't need to be in that realm to appreciate what I went through. So now I can just be a cheerleader for other people and let people tell their stories, and I can live vicariously through them and through my co-host, and we can have just a great time on the show.
Yeah. Do you see? Was there a bigger turnover rate for strippers that maybe did have a fans only page? Or
I think a lot of them did turn over, but there was a lot of failure. There was a lot of failure because a lot of the girls didn't understand what it took to run a fans only page. Just like It's not an automatic thing. You have to sign up, you have to give them your ID, you have to run through a whole bunch of process to make sure that you are you. So I think a lot of those girls, they gave up too early and they went back to the club.
Sure. Yeah, I know. People
They
tell
were like,
me,
I want cash. I don't want credit cards.
people tell me often like they want to do a podcast, and I go, okay, you know,
Yeah,
I'll help you out,
fair
man.
enough.
I'll help you get this plane
Yeah.
off the runway. But I see very, very little follow through, because I think you get into it and you're like, oh shit, you got to edit this thing. Oh shit, you got to come up with content every blah blah blah. Oh shit, you got to interview people. It's yeah. I think it becomes
It
the
is
idea.
not for the faint of heart.
The idea is nice and flashy, but it's rarely as easy as I think a lot of people assume it is. And I assume the same for a fan page, like whether that's a fans only page or another platform. That's still, you got to put content up. You got to keep creating.
Oh,
You
yeah.
got to keep your clientele happy, and it's in your home, like you said. It's an all new personal level.
They are seeing everything. They are seeing what color blinds you have. They are seeing what duvet you put on. There is so much weird, like, things you wouldn't think about going on in your own bedroom. And so it was interesting. It was a mutual thing between me and my husband, because he was the one taking the photographs.
Yeah.
He liked it at first. He's like, oh, this is fun. This is exciting. I like this. But then after the 10th photo shoot of the day, he's like, I have other things I have to do, Pixie.
Yeah.
I have to go work on these cars. I got to go do this, and I got to go, I don't have time to make sure that you have enough content for the rest of the month. I was like, okay, well, quickly it became more of a burden than anything.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do the podcast. Podcasting is way easier than managing a fans only.
Yeah, I agree. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got your name? I heard a funny story, so if it doesn't match up, I'm gonna put you back on the.
Okay, so I got Pixie. I've only had 2 stripper names ever.
Uh-huh.
So Pixie and Quinn, like the mighty Quinn. I'm like the mighty Quinn.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. So I got Pixie because back in the day when I first started at an all nude strip club, I was about 95, maybe 97 pounds, soaking wet with rocks in my pocket.
Yeah.
Big boobs, no ass, red hair, absolutely adorable little individual. Like, I was like the tiniest, adorablest thing, and I was so bubbly back then because the world hadn't like pushed me down into the place that I should be, and because I was so happy and so cheery, Pixie just kind of hit.
Yeah.
It just like, okay, I had never named myself before. I had never, you're not supposed to give yourself your nickname. Other people are supposed to give you your nickname. And and because it fit, and it fits so well, I just kind of kept it.
Yeah, that's good. You were talking about, this is on a more recent episode of yours. You found something on the ground and you're like, I'm like a little hobbit. I'm short. I'm low to the ground. I find things.
I'm a pixie. Yeah. Oh man, the amount of cash and the amount of things that I found a men's wedding ring with 3 diamonds, and the middle diamond was bigger than my engagement ring that my husband gave me. I was all like, somebody took their engagement ring off and put it in their pocket.
100%.
I'm just like, wow. So I don't know if it ever got back to that person, but I did the right thing and I turned it into my manager.
Oh, you did? Nice. So, good. Right on.
Because it's not mine. Yeah. I believe in the money. If I find money, it's your loss. Finders keepers on money, cash. Sure. Like, cash is mine. Uh-huh. But if it's anything else, maybe a lighter. I'd keep a lighter because I'm skeezy like that. But anything else, that you turn that in. You put it forward. I've come across envelopes with money that I had to turn in.
Wow.
Like I chased one guy around the bar, like 3. So the bar sits pretty much in the middle, and then the stage is over to the one side. So I had to chase a guy around the whole bar because he couldn't hear me because he's all like, drunk. I was like, sweetie. And he's all like, oh, there's my girlfriend. I know you. I was like, sweetheart, you drop this. This is yours. It's important. I know what this is. He's all like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I would have been devastated. Well, it was thick. It was thick.
Yeah.
And that's not the only time I've turned somebody's money into them because it's not mine. I don't care.
Sure.
It's not mine. Whatever.
Sure.
But if it's cash, it's mine on the floor.
Loose cash, that's a floor score.
Loose cash, it's mine.
Did they ever like take a little like here's a little something for returning it, like a good deed tip?
From the thick one, yes. From the second one, no. I was a waitress on the second one, and the guy had left it at stage on a chair, and I knew it was his because I knew the girl. Yeah. So that money basically wasn't his; it was his strippers. It was hers, and she was my friend. And so I turned it to him, and yeah, he passed the money on to her. But then when it came time to tip out the waitress, there was a fat 0 on my line, and I was like, "You bastard!" But you know what? Whatever. I mean, it'll come as long as you're paying it forward, and as long as you're being a good person, it'll come back. I wasn't even worried.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that
whatever.
logic. That's excellent. Pixie, I could talk to you all day. I want to wring more stories out of you, but I also want to like encourage my listeners to go and get their stories from your podcast. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and do a My Shity Podcast thing. First off, what's the name of the podcast?
NextOnStageOne.
And I'm going to have the link tree in the show notes so you guys can just click on it from this episode and get right there. So that'll be nice. And on My Shity Podcast, I always ask what the shittiest part of your job is. Could you give us like the shittiest part of your job when you were in that realm, when you were stripping?
Well, when I was stripping, it was watching my drinks. That was the shittiest part.
Yeah.
Is because, you know, I always ran the strippers down and like, did you just pick that drink up off the table? And they're like, yeah, why? I was like, you leave it. If you don't know where that drink came from and you just went up on stage and you came back, you leave it unless you know that customer. That drink is now dead to you. And they're like, why? I was like, because of reasons. Yeah. and sometimes that was the shittiest part is because you had to explain like common sense to people who should have common sense.
Yeah. You're like, have you ever heard of Bill Cosby? Do you know who that is? Like, do I have to explain? Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
It was hard because a lot of the girls you would see customers roofie drinks. Uh-huh. And then they wouldn't hit a dancer. They'd hit another customer and the customer would go down because he had a dancer's drink.
Oh my God.
And it was roofied. And I was like, stop it. Just stop it. Watch your drinks.
Oh my God.
It was one of those bad things. Thankfully I never got roofied, but I always could tell the signs and I could always, when somebody was acting a little skeezy and you could see that they were getting jealous of a customer that would have a lot of girls around him. And it was one of those things.
Usually
you just kind of knew when things were going down.
Did those guys get arrested? It's hard to prove that.
No. Well, you could get arrested if you could figure out who did it.
Yeah.
Most of the time they did it. And then they want to get as far away from the drinks as possible, but they want to watch the dancers and see how they're acting and behaving. And usually it takes a while for that to happen. So you got to be real patient in your long game.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. That's amazing.
I know. It's terrible. It's fucking terrible that we're having to have this conversation.
Yeah. That is a shitty part of the job. You can't even enjoy a drink.
It is a shitty part of the job.
Yeah.
The other shitty part of the job is when I was a waitress and I had to get money from people when their credit card declined.
Yeah.
and you have to be the nicest person. Oh, excuse me. I think there's something going on with our machine, but do you happen to have a different credit card, or do you happen to have some cash on you? Because it's not going through at this moment. I can try running it again if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And you had to be like the sweetest person without just fucking it up.
Yeah, it's awkward already. Yeah. Then you turn the corner and you're like, this motherfucker, god damn it. This motherfucker, we better have another fucking card.
And if you don't, and if you're not watching it, they sneak out the front.
Oh my God.
Or they sneak out the back, and then you're left holding a $200 tab.
Yikes.
Yeah. We tried to get their IDs with their credit card, but sometimes it just didn't work that way. Yeah. You know, that was a shitty part of the job.
That's pretty shitty.
It's really shitty.
Pixie, we always, in tradition of the show, we always end the podcast with a poop your pants story. Have you or a coworker ever pooped your pants, or have you ever had a shitty incident that you can think of?
I have not, but I have seen dancers passed out in the bathroom, like underwear around their ankles, just like slumped over, just causing the good snores, you know. And the bathrooms aren't as cleanly as you think they would be in a strip club. They're kind of gross, and sometimes the bathroom stall doesn't hang on the door quite right. So if you have a girl who's in the good bathroom stall and the door is closed and she's sleeping, then everybody has to use the bad bathroom stall that doesn't have a door on it. It's shitty.
Yeah. That's great. That works. That's awesome. Well, guys, if you want to hear more stories like that, please go check out NextOnStageOne. Like I said, the link tree is going to be in the show notes. And Pixie, thank you so much for doing this. I know you're busy. I know you're spinning a lot of plates. So this means a lot to me that you came on the show and did this for me.
Well, thank you, Adam. Thank you for having me on your shitty podcast.
Of course.
This is a great time.
That's it for us. Play us out, Shitty Ukulele.